Being 9 o'clock, let's call to order our Sherburne County Board meeting of May 4th. Please rise for a moment of silence and the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. At this time, I'd be looking for an approval of our proposed meeting agenda.
I'll move the meeting agenda as proposed.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Moving on to our consent agenda. I would be looking then for a motion upon review of the consent agenda to approve it.
I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie,
Second, Madam Chair.
seconded by Commissioner Smeezing. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, on to announcements. Mr. Messel, what do you have for us?
Thank you, Chair Danielowski. Just 5 quick announcements. First of all, we'll do something more formal later, but I did want you to know that for the 27th year in a row, Sherburne County has received the Government Finance Officers of America Award for Distinguished Comprehensive Annual Financial Reporting. That's a mouthful, but it means that Diane's staff just did an amazing job during COVID-19 year, and congratulations to the Auditor Treasurer's Office and to the county for excellence in representation of financial and auditing records. Second announcement is if you get a chance when you leave today to drive by the Wick Garden, there's been some spring activity. They're starting planting. They're very excited about that, and you'll be able to see that as it grows and matures this year. Third, just to update, we are doing our second round of switchboard videos to promote county businesses. This round includes Russell's on the Lake, Sand Dunes Auto, MPI, and Reliant Systems. So look for those promotion videos here shortly. Next, just a couple of things for your calendar. Gentle reminder, if you are interested, Sport Tech is having its groundbreaking Thursday, May 6th at 10:30 in the morning. And they've sent out invitations, but if you are interested in attending, it will be on their site of their new expanded facility. And then last announcement, next week we'll formally represent Police Officers and Correction Officers Week, or what we call Public Safety Week. There is a memorial event this Friday. It is so Friday, May 7th at 9 a.m., and it will be here at the flagpole at the Government Center. Commissioners are invited to attend and participate. It is a fairly somber memorial to represent those who have fallen while in the line of duty. Thank you.
What time is that again?
9 a.m., and we'll be at the flagpole. I don't have a weather-related alternate, but I'll find out for you.
All right, thank you for those updates. Moving on now to our open forum. Keisha, is there anybody signed up for open forum?
There is nobody signed up, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Regular agenda, first item. We're going to receive an update from Connexus Energy. We have with us Greg Ritterbush. I hope I said that correctly.
You did, Madam Chair.
Thank you. My last name is Danielowski, so hopefully I try not to mess up people's names too badly.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, staff, and members of the public, and I'd also probably guess a good number in here are Connexus members. We really do appreciate the opportunity today to give an update on what we have going on. Sherburne County is an important county that Connexus serves. We work really hard to have great relationships with communities and the cities, municipalities in this area and across the North Metro. And we're doing some interesting things. And we've been doing that in this general area since the 1930s. And so much is changing today in the energy environment. So we thought probably a good time to give an overall update on what we're doing. And in a minute, I'll invite Don Hall, our Vice President of Members, to give that progress update presentation. I did just want to say one thing about our vision, which is your most powerful membership. Something that is different about cooperatives and those that here are members. You own us. We serve you. You have a financial stake in the business and actually get each year some returns on that also. And it is humbling and actually really exciting and when we meet with our board and we see members of the public that we know you are the ones that we're here to do what we do in terms of your electric services. So with that, of course, any of us will be ready to stand, myself and also Bruce Saylor, for any questions at the end. But in the interest of time and your agenda, let me turn it over to Don Holler, who will make the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Madam Chair, Commissioners, staff, Bruce and Dan, thank you for inviting us in today. It was about 30 days ago we had a chance to meet with Bruce and Dan and go through this presentation. They thought it would be an excellent opportunity to get in front of you, the board, and educate not only you, but everybody that's online as well in the community that we serve. I'm going to go through a couple things today. Again, it comes back to your most powerful membership. What do we do on a daily basis to ensure that we are performing up to the members' expectations that we serve? No? There you go. So let's first start out with who we serve and where we serve. And let's just start here with this building. Dead center, unfortunately, we do not service this building itself, but just due northwest. We do straight up to St. Cloud, due east to Cambridge, and we make our way back down to the Marina on the St. Croix, Vadnais Heights. We do service just a little bit across in Hennepin County, across the river. We have Champlin, Dayton, and a small part of Maple Grove. In its totality, we have about 138,000 members. Of that, we are heavily residential driven. 90% of our membership is residential, which is very similar to Sherburne County and the residents that we serve here. We have over 70 cities and townships. You are one of 7 counties that we serve. So it's a pretty vast territory, pretty diverse as it relates to members, as it relates to businesses, and as it relates to the community's needs that we do have. So let's bring it back to Sherburne County. It's a very important relationship that we have. As you can see from the territory, it is a significant part of the territory that we service here at Connexus Energy. But more importantly is your residents are members. We share that relationship. And how do we work together on a daily basis to ensure that we grow smart together, we collaborate together, and we make that our communities better together? So the importance here is there's about 21,000 members. We can continue to grow on a daily basis, obviously, that we jointly serve. Extremely important when it comes to a revenue standpoint, to put it in perspective, it's about $38 million of our business is in York County. So it's extremely, extremely important to us. Obviously, you can see the tax base that we offer to the county. Very unique standpoint that there's 5 separate electric utilities within the county. Happy to say that we partner with all of them. Obviously, the gray part in the middle, the big chunk is Connexus Energy. That is what we share. Go north, we have a sister cooperative, East Central, that we partner with to service as well. That's in the green. The far northeast, there's a small little speck of Princeton Utility. I'll get back to that in a little bit. We have a very important business park up there that we jointly serve, extremely important to us. And we have a solar asset that's going on up there as well that is within Sherburne County. You have Elk River Municipal, and then you also have Xcel Energy on the south side of Highway 10. So again, extremely important to us. It's very important that we retain our relationship. I had a conversation with the county attorney prior. The last time I was in this chambers was regarding Connexus Waterways, if you remember that. We had a business that we were selling off, and I worked with the county attorney to make sure through this transition that the residents and our members are still handled appropriately. So we had that conversation and reconnected again today. Community and economic development. This is where we work very closely with Dan and Bruce on a daily basis. As you grow, we grow. It's not rocket science, right? So how do we grow together smartly? We have economic development programs on a commercial standpoint. We are very, very fortunate as a utility. We have dedicated key account reps that work with our largest commercial accounts. And that translates, if you're a large user, most likely you are a large employer. And so we hear things long before the local city does. We hear things long before the county does. But when we do hear things, we work together to find solutions. I'll give a great example. One of them on there is Lisi Medical. Back in the day, it was Remley. We got a call from one of our key accounts. We went out there, and the question was, can you give me an estimate to upgrade our service? Well, the question is, why? What's the question behind the question? Well, here we find out that they either have to make a corporate decision, do they expand, or do they consolidate and move everything to California, right? So we have processes in place when a key account hears those things, they come back to staff and myself and Bruce Saylor, and we reach out to the communities that we serve. In this case, it was Big Lake. And we were able to package and work with DEED, State of Minnesota, the county, and others to package a program and sell. And as the end result is, they stayed here, they expanded here. So that's what we do together. You'll see some of our larger key accounts, commercial accounts in Sherburne County. Many of them, Crystal Cabinets, Phillips Distillery is up in the Princeton Business Park, which is in Sherburne County, extremely important to us. That little business park, if you want, later I can get into it, is extremely valuable to us. So I just want to leave from a community and economic development standpoint that we definitely work together, not only with the county, but the local municipalities to improve the communities that we serve. That includes the residents and the commercial accounts. We do offer 2 formal programs on a commercial account economic development standpoint, and that is we have a large load discounted rate for anybody coming in that meets a certain standard as far as energy usage. And the second is we have a commercial vacant building discounted rate. So think of it this way, again, I'll go back to Big Lake and think of Remley or Lisi now, and if you go directly across Highway 10, there's another business park, and there was some vacant buildings in there. So think of a vacant commercial building. It's a stranded asset from a Connexus standpoint that we're not recovering on, right? So it's in our best interest to get them filled in, very similar with the county and very similar with the city. So we offer a discounted rate for vacant commercial buildings of a certain size and a certain load. And we partnered locally with the city and obviously Dan to make that happen. And we partner with the local EDA as well to make sure they are aware of what we do offer. Mr. Ruderbush talked about this earlier, is we're cooperative. We are owned by you, our members. We're here for one reason and one reason only, and that is to serve you as a member. You own us. We are member-owned and community-focused. One of the things that is unique to a cooperative is we are governed by our board. We just got done with an election last week. Hopefully everybody either online or in this office had a chance to vote. So a very important aspect of being a cooperative. You know, we don't really care about earnings per share, stock prices. We do care about you, our members. One of the great things about a cooperative is all unallocated cash back goes to you, our members. We're very proud that last year we gave back $7.6 million back to the members that we serve. If you look at it in its totality, it's well over $100 million. I don't know if we have records that go back 80 years, but for sure back in the last 50 years, it's well over $130 million. The things that we do together, I heard finance in the pandemic, and I know Mr. Weber was into his eyeballs on pandemic relief and working with the communities. We stepped in early before any federal aid to help the communities that we serve. We worked with all the food shelves, including food shelves in Sherburne County. We partnered with Business for Business to get help businesses right away out of the gates. And our largest customer, quite frankly, is Anoka Hennepin School District. And there was a need of making sure that every student had an opportunity to go to school remotely. And we jumped in early to help and partner with that. You might say, where does this money come from? And this is where the common question I get when I'm in the community is, why don't you just save the money and stop donating and reduce our rates? And let me do a little education on what that is. Being a cooperative, right, gives us some flexibility. We talked about that earlier. Under unclaimed property law, so if someone moves out of our service territory, they don't call us and they move, we have unclaimed cash back that falls under unclaimed property laws. And under the state of Minnesota, we have two options. A, we can give it back to the state of Minnesota, and it falls within their general fund, or we can donate it back into the communities we serve under very strict guidelines regarding qualified 501c3s. So we choose, obviously, to impact the communities we serve and help the communities that we serve. In 2019, we made a very strategic decision to form our own foundation. It's called the Connexus Foundation. The reason we did that is that unclaimed cashback was fluctuating greatly. And this is a way that we can levelize and stabilize the giving that we have going forward. I will say this, is we did make a policy change effective immediately, and it went into effect in 2019, that as a member moves out, if they don't call us, we do distribute back their unclaimed cash back upon that move out. So that 7-year period that we have to do our due diligence to find people is what we're going to use for future funding for years and years to come. And we expect to donate approximately $130,000 to $150,000 a year for the next several years. And it was a huge strategic decision we made to form the foundation. Now, there's 4 separate categories or areas of focus that you can see. Community services is pretty broad. Think of food shelves and different services. Could be mental health, could be homeless, just community services. Youth and education is pretty broad. Environmental stewardship and economic development. You must be a qualified 501c3 to participate. And I did reach out to, I talked to most of you this morning, and I know I mentioned this in the staff meeting too, is if you see a need in the community, as you're out in the community, and it's a qualified 501c3, pick up the phone, call Connexus, and let's see what we can do to improve and help the communities that we serve. It's out there. Visit our website. We have a separate website page. You can easily submit your request online as well. But again, Bruce and I are here to serve. Reach out to us. Reach out to Bruce or Dan. They know how to get a hold of us. You know, as a cooperative, we have some pretty fundamental basics that we do. Affordability and reliability are core to what we do. If you do those 2 things right, again, affordability, reliability equals value. If we nail those 2 things, we create the greatest value for our membership, going back to your most powerful membership. Affordability, you'll see the graph that's there, line graph. We benchmark ourselves on a monthly basis regarding Xcel Energy. Xcel is a great institution. It's a good organization. It just happens to be, that's who we benchmark against, right? So we track it. It's in our board packet every month to our board. Very happy to say that on a residential standpoint, we are consistently below Xcel Energy between 2% and 4%. It does fluctuate, and again, it has a lot to do with seasonality and the pricing structures of both organizations. Also very happy to say that our board approved a 2% rate decrease this year during the pandemic to our commercial accounts when they needed it the most, right? very, very strong financial position regarding affordability. Very happy to say as well that for the 4th consecutive year, there has been no rate increase for for residential accounts. And the separation in the gap, we see that continuing to increase as we go forward. And it really comes down to the initiatives and the innovation that we have in place to keep your rates affordable and competitive in the marketplace. So with that, I talked about innovation. It's what we do on a daily basis. You know, your most powerful membership. We walk in the door, we focus on it every single day, which allows us to have no rate increases in 4 years or a rate decrease during a pandemic. It's about our innovation. We were the first utility in the nation to attach solar and grid-scaled batteries. You'll see the picture off to the right. That is actually the Ramsey Renewable Station in Ramsey, Minnesota, just off Highway 10. You'll see solar. You'll see the white box that's on the top of the picture. That is actually the size of a cargo train, and there's several of them out there. If you open the doors, there's racks of batteries that are in there. It's truly a rack. If one needs replacing, you pull one out, you push one back in. That strategy around innovation and battery plus storage has enabled us to really improve our wholesale power cost price that we have. You'll see that we have a net benefit alone, a net benefit of $1.2 million, and we see that growing substantially over the next couple of years. A lot of you may not know this. This might get into the weeds a little bit, but the price of energy fluctuates greatly during the course of the day. Think of cold weather or hot weather. When demand goes up, the price in the market goes up significantly. And what we utilize these assets for is to, one, solar is a low-cost producer of energy, so there's a savings there. But then we use solar to charge and store the energy in the battery, and when the price of energy spikes, we release it back onto our grid, right? So we're buying cheaper power, which then we all save, and that's where that net savings come in between 1.2 million, and we see that going up significantly going forward. The other part of innovation is, as a staff, we challenge ourselves every single year. We set goals around cost or labor savings. So think of, in the county, how do we reduce waste? Waste is either money or it's also time, right? So we challenge ourselves every year. We set threshold, challenge, and stretch goals. Last year alone, we as an organization found $1.8 million in innovation in eliminating waste in our business. We have similar goals this year, and we will have similar goals going forward. We not only look at savings as a grid, you know, the wholesale side, we also create programs and services for commercial accounts. We create programs and services for residential accounts and helping them save, and we share in that economics. So if a member puts in a Wi-Fi thermostat and allows us to manage our that peak time, we save money and we take a good chunk of that and give it back to the members. So there's programs that are out there. We have peak time rebate, which is fairly new and growing rapidly. Wi-Fi thermostats is out there. And on the commercial side, we have generator programs. We just heard from county staff. We were out in a county facility up in Zimmerman helping them with lighting retrofits to save energy as well on rebates on the commercial side. You'll see off to the side, again, by the end of this year, we will have 5 separate solar assets. The Baldwin Renewable Station is the one up by the Princeton Business Park. I will extend an offer to you. We will have a grand opening on June 24th. Be some education around solar and the uniqueness of the site. We partnered with Prairie Restoration. We will get back through staff to send an invitation. Just let staff know if you're interested, and we'll get you the appropriate location, time, and all of that. The other side of the value equation is reliability. I had the great pleasure of talking to Madam Chair before the meeting, and she shared her experience. She's at the part of, think of the service map, that she's close to XL territory. She gets families and friends that call her and say, I'm out of power, and she goes, well, I'm not. Great testimony, so I appreciate that. But we take great pride in it, right? You can't have affordability without reliability, right? They go hand in hand. We're extremely proud that we were rated what is called the best utility in the nation for perfect power. That's a J.D. Power study that we participate in. We were the best utility in the country. There's two questions really that it focuses on. Have you experienced a momentary or a short outage, yes or no? Have you experienced a long-term outage, yes or no? We had the largest percent of members that received no outages across the country. So that's a perception survey. We also measure engineering statistics. I'm not going to get into them, right? But from a real hardcore measurement standpoint, we also perform #1 in the nation. A lot of you may not know this. We are required as a utility to do an annual report to the commission or to the Department of Commerce. In that report is reliability. When you look at Minnesota utilities, again, we are either #1 depending on the year or very close to #1. So we have a very, very robust grid and system. We invest significant dollars in it. We're proactive. If we find a problem, we seek that asset out and replace them proactively. We do not wait until there's an outage. Let me put it in a different way. A Connexus member can experience an outage once every 3 years. Industry standard is you will experience more than one in a year. So you're 3 times more likely to experience an outage outside of our territory, right? The example that you gave, right? I won't get into restoration, but that same gap exists in restoration. Because we have systems and processes in place, we can get it on fairly quickly. The last bullet, I'm going to wait to the end to make sure that we have time, but Connexus is not Texas. I have a slide in education on why we are fortunate to be a part of the MISO market, but if we have time, we'll come back to that, just for the sake of your time and the agenda. So what's new? Innovation is what we do, right? It's in our blood. It's what we do every day. We don't stand still. It is very common for us to do pilots. So as we sit, we have 4 active pilots. Actually, there's one missing on that. There's 5 active pilots that we have going on right now. 2 of them, one of them that's missing is EV installation of chargers. We're in the pilot of doing that. We actually did our first assessment yesterday. So our job, one of my jobs, is to engage with the communities, engage with members, listen to them, and be proactive and come up with programs and services that is beneficial for both organizations, meaning Connexus and the members. Free nights and weekends. We know that there is healthcare workers. We know that there is police officers. We know that there's manufacturers that work off-cycle or overnight, and the cost of energy during the night is different. And there's probably members out there that will change their lifestyle to maximize the value of their energy. That's free nights and weekends. EV, I don't think this is new news to anybody in here. Of the members we share, and even of the 90% of the residential coast, most of them, over 60% of them, commute out of our county, out of our territory to go to work. So we see EVs as an opportunity. It's a growth opportunity for Connexus, only if it's done correctly. If a member charges their car over that peak, the economics of a house flips drastically. So we have to come up with programs and services that enable the growth, but do it smartly. That's what the whole EV is about. Overhead versus underground targeting, that's really reliability. We have parts of our territory that we are dense. Think of old part of Blaine. There's no pilots here in Sherburne County. Coon Rapids, that it's dense and the power lines are on the back property line, and it's really, really, really tough to get to. So we're in a pilot of targeting neighborhoods to move that power line to the front curb versus a back line. There's a whole host of other things. It was great to hear that virtually everybody in here is a member. You should have received your value of membership report shortly, or in the last 30 to 45 days. It was something we did this year, was a pilot in 2019 that we rolled out this year. It's a way to consolidate the value that we bring and educate the members that we do on a personal level. It's down to you as a household or even down to you as a business. Future things, we have no credit card fees coming. We're one of the last industries that still charge a fee, and I can tell you from all the research that we've done, it is a significant irritant to members. Shortly following that will be a mobile app, and I already talked about the solar array up in Princeton, but shortly after that will be Sunflower 2 that is coming. So all of these, though, go back to reliability and affordability. Every single one of them are attached to that, and every single one of them are attached to making your membership the most powerful membership that we can. Do we have time to go through the difference between what happened in Texas and in the Midwest?
I guess I defer to the board if they're interested.
You guys want to hear that difference? Otherwise, we can move on.
Sure, I don't know how long it would take.
I'll keep it brief.
Yeah.
So just a quick snapshot. So we belong, as in Connexus in Minnesota as a whole, to what's called the MISO market or Mid-Continent Independent System Operators. And you can see it goes from all the way from Canada, Manitoba, down to Louisiana, including a small part of Texas, which is the only part of Texas that did not lose power. So the difference is it's an integrated grid, right? Completely integrated from top to bottom. A lot of assets that are there, peaking plants that can kind of think of it as a governor to keep the power flowing. There's 10 separate independent systems across the country. You can see Texas, it's called ERCOT, is independent. It's island, it's siloed, right? Has very little connectivity, same with California. But the biggest thing, again, I'm not an expert. I will lean on an article I read at Wall Street Journal. The Texas grid is not winterized, right? So think of, again, a little, Energy 101. Typically, a fuel, could be coal, could be natural gas, is you heat water that creates steam to turn a turbine that creates energy, right? And if that water pipe is not winterized, what happens? It freezes, the pipe bursts, and it causes all kinds of problems. Early on, you saw in media, renewables taking a hit. Well, a big difference between our region in Texas, our windmills are winterized. Think if your car was not winterized, what would happen to it? It would seize up, it wouldn't work, and it's very similar to the renewable assets that were down there. So it's a big difference. Take comfort that you are, a part of Connexus, but also a part of MISO that's integrated. I wouldn't doubt you'll see changes in Texas in the near future, but that kind of gives you some background. It's relevant to the things that are happening in the world. So with that, I'll just stand for questions as it relates to Connexus.
Any questions? That was a very good presentation and update. Mr. Smeezing, you had,
Well,
Commissioner?
Madam Chair, I'll just, as a testament to your reliability, we're in the confinement livestock business for 33 years, spent significant money on standby generators, transfer switches, and power. And I think they did eventually pay for themselves, but we had probably 2 significant outages where we used our generator in all that time. So that was, you are a very reliable provider of electricity to us, so.
Thank you.
Totally agree. In regards to the foundation that you implemented, in some of the communities where there is 2 services, do you also help with, like if there was a 501c3 foundation, their base was in another service area, but yet they provide service opportunities to the range of the community?
Specifically, the answer is yes.
Okay.
We are here to help the communities that we serve. Just because the organization might be on the other side of the road, but they offer services to our members, we will absolutely help them.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, thank you very much for that update. Appreciate you coming out and educating us, and thank you. Have a great day. All right. Moving on to, we have a Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services update, and.
I believe.
Pardon?
They're online.
Yes, yeah, I seen that Ms. Chafee was online. So, do we have Barb up there?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and guests. My name is Barb Chafee, and I'm the CEO for Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services, which serves an 11-county area, including Sherburne County. And thank you for putting up our PowerPoint this morning. Well, year 2021 actually marks our 37th year as partners in workforce development. And Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services is your fiscal agent, your administrative entity for employment and training programs and services in accordance with federal law and state statute. And that's why I have to bring you all kinds of information on an annual basis. Next. Our agenda is really twofold. As your administrative entity and your fiscal agent, it's my responsibility to bring you some business, and that is the annual fiscal audit and the annual program performance report. And that performance report used to be really thick. Many of you that have resided on the board for a while. And now we have a trifold, but because we're doing this virtually, it is now can be seen on www.cmjts.org. Also, we have in your packet something called the Schedule of Insurances. And this is another important part of making sure that Commissioner Phobie is protected under law. And so we have to have insurances, so we have that in your packet. And then also, Sherburne County also has asked us to always provide them with LMI information. And our deed analyst for our area, Luke Greiner, has put that together, who does that every year for us. And we present that to you. That's also in your packet. It's also for you when you're in other committees that you can utilize that information readily. So please review it and take it with you to other committees. But the most important part of our presentation this morning is all about my staff presenting what's happening in your county. And they're going to focus on the programs and services delivered right here in Sherburne County. So next. As you're well aware, we have 11 county commissioners that reside on our Joint Powers Board. And so I'm going to introduce our new commissioners that you haven't probably seen before. Candy Ohio County Commissioner Steve Gardner and McLeod County Commissioner Nathan Schmalz. And Steve Gardner is replacing Harlan Madsen, and Nathan Schmalz is taking the place of Ron Chemansky, both who have retired this past year. But I want to pause for just 1 second because I want to give a special recognition to Sherburne County Commissioner Lisa Phobie, who was elected by the Joint Powers Board to serve as the vice chair of the Joint Powers Board. So we're very excited that she's taken on that role, but along with that role, she also has to serve on other boards. And so she automatically becomes a member, an officer on the local workforce development board, which meets every month. And then she is assigned to what we call the CGR committee on the board, which is a community and government relations committee. And then under federal law, we also have what we call, and I'll show you the map in just a second, regions. So now instead of just being over 11 counties, she's now over 13, and she's an officer of the Region 3 Leadership and Planning Board, which covers also Stearns and Benton in our 11 counties. So, Commissioner Phobie attended her first meeting about a week ago. So thank you for your outstanding leadership on our board. And I'm sure that when you took on the vice chair position as an officer, you weren't expecting to be super, super duper busy with all of the other committees too, but we thank you for your leadership. So next, thank you. And then you notice, I'm sure you know most of the people on the board, but I just want to recognize Wright County Commissioner Christine Hewson, because I know that many of you work with her. So next. This is the map that I was talking about, because this is the way that the federal, the actual, we had to, under the new federal law, Workforce Innovations and Opportunity Act, we had to also be a part of a region. So our region and our local area is in the greenish part, and that covers all of central Minnesota, plus Stearns and Benton. And then it wraps around the metro area, northwest and southwest. But I wanted to bring something to your attention, and that is the Career Force Center. We used to call them workforce centers, they're now called Career Force. But Monticello is, under federal law, the comprehensive center, which means that has all of the federal partners, and along with CMJTS, it is also our corporate office. And if I can just say, we are open. We are open by appointment only and curbside services. We have been open, which is, which many people in the community do not understand. We've been open and serving people since March of last year. Yes, most of our staff now are at home. We do have some in the center, but we are allowing people to come in by appointment only, and we're following all of the COVID-19 guidelines. And then on the bottom, there's just a few things that are highlighted. Our new sites are Malacca, North Branch, Pine City, and Sandstone, and they are called specialized centers because they're really focused on public assistance programs. So next slide. And this is the annual report, but I'm going to allow my staff to talk a little bit more about this. So I'm going to go to our very next slide, because this is the most important part of our presentation. And I'm very honored to introduce my staff. They're very qualified. They're excellent. And I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and their positions at CMJTS. And I'm going to start out with Tricia. Next, please.
Good morning. I am Tricia Bigwit. I am the Director of Finance with CMJTS, and I'm here with the annual fiscal audit. If we go to the next slide, this is kind of a highlight of what they look at when they come in. Again, we used audit firm Clifton Larson Allen. Normally they come on site for a week. This year we did the audit virtually. So that meant I got to spend a whole month with them, kind of reviewing and answering questions, going through program files. They looked at all of our general ledger detailed transactions. They still pulled all of our control manuals and made sure that we followed processes through the accounts payable and the payroll procedures, as well as any general ledger transactions. They reviewed over 65 grants. We produce all of our statements in-house so that they're able to just come in and present a modified opinion. So that means they don't have to create the financial statements and audit them. They're able to just come in with a higher lens view and make sure that the information we're providing you on a monthly basis and a quarterly basis is accurate and reliable. If you go to the next slide, you can see the summary of our results. There was no issues. So we had a clean audit again this year. There was no areas of weaknesses identified or deficiencies. They were able to follow our control manuals from start to finish, and we follow our processes. There's no areas that are open for vulnerabilities for fraud or any kind of illegal transactions. And again, the reports we're providing to the board on monthly basis are provided as accurate. So that's kind of where they stand to make sure that what we're giving you each month is reliable information. That's all that I have, unless you have any questions. Otherwise, I will turn it over to Dina.
Good morning. I am Dina Warnes, and I am the program manager for our public assistance programs, which include MFIP, or the Minnesota Family Investment Program, as well as SNAP, Employment and Training, our adult and our dislocated worker programs. Next slide, please. So I'll talk first about our MFIP program. And MFIP is a program that is designed to assist low-income families. The program expects, supports, and rewards work. And what we mean by that is that all public assistance recipients in Sherburne County are referred to CMJTS Employment and Training by Financial Services. And once we receive them, we enroll them in our MFIP Employment and Training program, and we develop employment plans with our individuals, which include work activities that expect action and engagement towards self-sufficiency. That looks different from individual to individual. That's why we also individualize those employment plans that we develop with our participants. The way that we support individuals with the MFIP program, we have child care assistance available through Sherburne County that is set up to assist public assistance families so that the cost of child care does not limit them from participating in activities or create unnecessary challenges or barriers. And they're also eligible for child care once they close their MFIP case due to employment. So they could continue to receive that child care assistance to help wean them off the program and into the world of work. With rewards for work, there are disregards in place for MFIP families, which means once they do start working, a portion of their benefits are disregarded or not counted against their MFIP grant. And the reason why that occurs is to ensure that families get the jump start that they need to successfully return to work and leave public assistance. And then we also look at their income. Once families are at about 15% above the federal poverty guidelines, that's when they tend to exit MFIP. Currently, we're running a program a little different than what we've been used to in past years. With the peacetime emergency in place, there are some changes to the rules and the regulations where we facilitate our programs. The peacetime emergency is currently scheduled to end May 14th, and each day or each time that day comes up, we wait to see what Governor Walz will do with the peacetime emergency, whether or not it will continue. At the point where we actually end that peacetime emergency, things will go back to what we consider normal for our public assistance programming. There will be a 60-day wind down period for both financial services as well as employment and training, because there will be a lot of changes, a lot of readjusting with our participants. Sanctions will go back into place. Families who are currently working, they'll become monthly reporters again. So there are some changes that will occur. One thing I wanted to make sure of, sometimes we're hearing that people say, oh, MFIP participants don't have to do anything right now. So we are asking for your help in making sure we dispel that myth. Participants are expected to work with employment and training. The only difference is we cannot sanction currently if they're not following through. However, our staff are still working diligently to develop those plans that I discussed earlier and get our participants back to work quickly. Next slide, please. So the next program is our SNAP Employment and Training Program. And with SNAP, again, our focus is on low-income individuals. Our SNAP participants tend to be what we call ABODs, able-bodied adults without dependents. They are time limited when the peacetime emergency is not in place. Currently, that peacetime emergency has paused the time limits for SNAP ABOD recipients. With our employment and training program, it is voluntary in the state of Minnesota. Individuals are encouraged to participate with employment and training, and we do quite a bit of marketing and outreach to try and engage participants to work with CMJTS staff. CMJTS does administer both a 100% grant as well as a 50-50 SNAP grant in Sherburne County. And what that means, our 100% grant are the funds that we receive from the county as a contracted provider. And then our 50-50 grant, we actually receive through DHS as a community-based organization, and we're able to serve a greater population and we have more funding available. Each dollar we spend in that grant, we can bill back for 50 cents. So it helps us to continue to build that pot of money so that we can maintain services to our SNAP population. Next slide. So then we do have our adult and dislocated worker programs. With our WIOA adult eligibility, those are individuals 18 years of age and older. Those who are registered with Select Service need to have the right to work in the US. And we do have a priority of service in place for our adult individuals. And that would be individuals who are low income and or basic skills deficient. Our dislocated worker population are individuals who are out of work through no fault of their own, and that they're eligible for or maybe have exhausted unemployment insurance. And then they also have to be unlikely to return to that previous occupation or industry. And there's a variety of ways that we can determine eligibility for both adult and dislocated worker. Next slide, please. So with all of our programming, we have services available to our individuals. And first and foremost, excuse me, we provide career planning and counseling to individuals. The way that we do that, when we meet with individuals, we run a battery of assessments with our customers. We're trying to determine their work interests, their values, and their abilities, as well as take a look at what the labor market is showing, what in-demand occupations are available to them based on their previous work experience, their previous education. And if you could click that button, thank you. We also help with approved training services. That could be a variety of things. When we complete those assessments with individuals, sometimes we identify that there are needs available. We need to refer to training vendors. That might be our adult basic education partners to improve those basic skills that I talked about. Or it might be in helping individuals find training providers for specific classroom training they are interested in. We can assist with tuition. We can assist with books and other fees in order to attend training. Next slide. We also assist with job search. So when individuals come to us, they may not be interested in classroom training, and that's okay. We also provide job search assistance, or maybe they get through their training and they need some job search to locate that employment at the end. So we help them in researching local employment trends. We want to make sure that whatever their employment goals are, there's actually a job at the end. We also take a look at helping them with developing their resume, their cover letter, practicing those thank you letter responses. And we also can do interviewing assistance. We'll coach them. We can videotape them to show them how they're doing during those interviews. That's what we refer to as mock interviewing. So we do provide quite a bit of job search assistance to make sure our participants are successful. And then finally, those services include what we call support services. We do have funding available in all of the programs that I mentioned to assist people with minor expenses to remove those barriers or challenges that keep them from participating in their employment plan activities. So that might include costs for transportation. Maybe an individual needs help getting started with car insurance. Maybe they just need some gas money to get to an interview. We can help with some limited childcare expenses, or maybe some housing, whatever it takes to help eliminate those immediate barriers to get them back on track. For those individuals where maybe we don't have the finances available, we make referrals to our community resources. We have great partnerships with many of our community-based organizations in Sherburne County. Next. So Anna is not in attendance with us today. So Leslie and I are going to try and get through her slides together. So please bear with us. Youth programs is not our strength, but we know something about it. So first and foremost, I believe this is in your packet of information. This is a youth program chart of eligibility. The youth programs administer a number of grants with all kinds of different funding streams, and each of those funding streams and programs comes with different eligibility criteria. It can get very confusing, so that's why Diana developed this chart for our partner agencies in order to help you identify what programs might be best suited for the youth that you are working with. Next, please. So then CMJTS provides youth program services to youth between the ages of 14 and 24 and who meet at least one of the criteria listed below. So you can see a number of criteria listed there. Individuals, our youth, only need to meet one of the criteria listed. And if they do, and they're, like I said, between the ages of 14 and 24, go ahead and refer them to CMJTS Youth Programming, and we'll see what we can do to provide services. Next slide. So our CMJTS Youth Employment Specialists work with schools, nonprofits, private businesses, and other agencies to help our young people by connecting them with career pathways and increasing their employability and earning potential. And this is accomplished by providing youth with services that you see here below. They'll provide services to assist our youth with eliminating the barriers that keep them from work or education. The goal is either to help our youth find employment or find that education and training they need to be successful as they become young adults. We can help them with career endeavors that lead them to self-sufficiency, independence, and providing them with the confidence, teaching them those self-advocacy skills that they need to be successful in life. And then the youth programs will also help the youth identify their strengths and then set goals for their future and provide them with the resources and tools that they need to take the action steps towards achieving those goals. Next, please.
This is where I take over, Dina.
That's you,
All right.
Leslie.
Good morning, everyone. I am Leslie Witowitz. I am the Development Manager with CMJTS, and I oversee our business services, which I will get to later on when it comes to my presentation. But to continue on with the youth program, some of the additional services provided are, of course, work-based learning. So and this is truly one of the key components of the youth program, is that we really try to engage youth and find host sites where we are the employer of record and the youth are learning on the job, and they are getting mentorship from the business. They're also earning a wage. CMJTS pays the workers' comp. We provide a thorough orientation for both the participant and the site to make sure it's a good fit. We also have Workforce Protege Program. This is where the employer is helping contribute to that youth wage, and they really do additional mentorship with the youth. We're able to do on-the-job training contracts with youth as well, which I'll explain more about that later on in the presentation. We encourage businesses to promote job shadow experiences and also business tours. Another service provided is, of course, occupational skill training. It is amazing that we're able to help youth with obtaining certifications. We can assist them with some stipends to encourage them to complete their GED. We help them with their diplomas, other degrees, but we always look at what is a high demand occupation. We do not want to encourage youth to go into an occupation where there will be no jobs. We also help them look at their transferable skills. We assess their skills and interests and help guide them and get them on a career path. And so post-secondary preparation is another key component. As I mentioned, a lot of assessments. We help them understand the FAFSA, explore labor market information so that they know what kind of careers are available to them in their local area as well as throughout the state. They also encourage leadership development. These young people are our future, so having them have the skills to be able to possibly come here and share what they've learned at a county commissioner meeting or other leadership activities is also promoted. Next slide, please. We encourage dropout prevention, and this is also where I had referred to stipends for GED attendance. This is a key component to help them get paid for learning, but also continuing their education. Similar to the adult programs, support services are available to ensure that they are able to complete the activities that are developed in their plan. Oftentimes it's gas support, it may be childcare assistance, or helping them get their license and other educational supplies that are needed. We encourage financial literacy, having the youth understand, what their first paycheck looks like, how to open a savings account, a checking account. Having those money management skills at an early age will help them later in life. And then, of course, we do provide follow-up services for 12 months after they exit the program to maintain and ensure that they are continuing their employment or their education path, and just to keep them on track. And we are available then, if they have bumps in the road, to get them back on track quickly. Next slide, please. The youth program also has the Outreach to Schools program. We are allowed to take 20% of the Minnesota Youth Program funds to deliver services to youth who are not eligible for programming. So this is huge. Of course, school counselors are in short supply across the state of Minnesota. So this allows us, our staff, to be able to go into schools and really give career exploration education to a broad swath of youth. I believe over 400 youth were impacted last year alone through our outreach to schools. So they get connected to community and private sector resources. We encourage them to do career fairs. We have been promoting, the governor has proclaimed different months. January was healthcare, April was IT, October is coming up with manufacturing month. So we have engaged schools and businesses to do a panel where the employers come in, they share information, and we've invited schools to come on and listen to these. So really engaging and making those connections and sharing information with youth. And in Sherburne County, very excited, upcoming this summer, we are bringing camps back. They happened years ago, and it was a very successful endeavor, and Diana has made the decision to bring those back. Big Lake High School stepped up to the plate, and they are donating the space for the camp to be held. Centricare has really come through, and they have, I believe, 12 staff that are going to be coming on site in person and doing some direct training on different occupations in the healthcare field. And it will go through maintenance and dietary and the whole gamut of what's available in a healthcare setting for occupations. So very excited about that happening in Sherburne County in July. Next slide, please. And here's my picture, and you can just go on to the next slide. So with the CMJTS Business Services team, I have 3 business service coordinators, and I am sure almost all of you are aware or have met Tim Zapoy, who is the business service coordinator for Sherburne and Wright counties. He's very connected with the businesses. He is out there connecting. He misses beating the pavement and knocking on doors in person very much. He is very much an in-person communicator. But he will help connect businesses with qualified workers. He will speak with job seekers, help give them opportunities and options, and really make those connections. Right now, the job seekers are in short supply, and we are doing everything we can to find them, such as employers, but doing what we can to provide them with the tools. We can also connect them with employee training, such as OJT, some of the youth that are participating in work experience, some of the public assistants or adults who are looking for transitional jobs. We also promote incumbent worker training and help connect them to registered or youth apprenticeship resources. And then, of course, just being a consultant, offering information on how to recruit employees and linking them to our career force partners as well. Next slide, please. So on-the-job training is one of the key opportunities that employers can tap into. Of course, the employee, the potential employee or new hire, has to be eligible for our programming because that is where the funding comes from. But then we can reimburse the employer up to 50% of the new employee's wage for the length of the contract. So the business service coordinator will look at the gap in skills and the training that this new hire is coming to you with, and then fill in that gap. So the employer can do some of that training and get reimbursed to learn those new skills while on the job. So we do refer candidates who have been evaluated by our staff. They may have recently completed some training, but then we send those to you and let you know that they are OJT eligible. The business, of course, is the one making the hiring decision, but then there's also that benefit of the employment specialist there to make sure it's a smooth fit. And if there are issues that come up, they can come on site and help smooth those out so that the employer isn't having to refill that position, but just make sure it's a good fit. Next slide. Another awesome opportunity that employers have is the incumbent worker training program. It is business driven. It is there to help employers upskill current employees. It also helps reduce layoff aversion, but really helping the business remain competitive. We have funded several projects and we encourage Sherburne County employers, if they're looking to do some training, connect with Tim and he can help complete the application with them. And it's helping offset the business's cost to train and upgrade the skills of its current workers. And we can fund projects up to $25,000. There is a percentage of a match that the businesses do, but it is pretty minimal. Next slide, please. So we have been trying to be innovative during COVID. Of course, Barb had mentioned our offices are closed to the public outside of truly people call and schedule appointments, but the doors are not unlocked and it's not a free-for-all. And of course, trying to be COVID compliant, we can't have job fairs that we used to with ideally a ton of people in one location. So we offered a drive-through job fair event last October. We are considering doing one again this spring, but we are actually going back to some in-person job fairs. They, of course, are not going to look like they used to. We're limiting the number of employers, but we do have one coming up on May 20th in our Monticello location. We have 6 employers, and we are hoping that we have some job seekers that come and visit them. We have offered several virtual hiring events, and we offer, a networking group as well that has gone virtual. So it allows for people from across the state to participate, which has been nice, and potentially draw some new potential job seekers to the area. But then that's all I have. Any questions on Dina's, the information we shared on youth programs or business services?
Any questions? I don't see any. Thank you for your update. It was very, very informative. The only thing I would have to add is I think when they actually do start to put unemployment back to how it used to be without the extra dollars, I hear from many businesses they're struggling to find people that want to work, and so in the meantime they're having to shorten their hours or close their doors for the day with no employees to work or close their businesses. So hopefully that will get back to normally very soon, because it isn't that people, there's jobs, tons of jobs,
We agree. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you so much for allowing us this time to come in and talk to you about the services that we provide. And yes, we are also seeing that very same thing, but I think that we're starting to see more people contacting us. So hopefully this will turn itself around and we'll be able to match those workers with our wonderful businesses in Sherburne County. So thank you for your time.
I agree, Barb. Thank you. And Commissioner Phobie did have a comment she wants to make.
So thanks, Chair. I just wanted to thank Barb and staff for coming and presenting today. I've been a frequent flyer with you lately, so we've been spending a lot of time together. And in addition to all of this, Barb and her staff and the board continues to watch some legislation that's not looking very pleasing for the work of Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, and kind of the way the state seems to want to go with some of the funding. So stay tuned with that, but we are also watching a lot that's going on in the Capitol right now to protect our little area of the world that some people think not a lot is going on, or that we're not, we're working differently, and we need to share our story loud at the Capitol. So thanks for that, Barb, and your staff.
Yep. Then let us know
Thank
if you
you,
need any help with that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, moving on then to the next item of business is considering an interim use permit for application for mining the Merlin Valerius. Nancy, hello.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Okay, so these are the recommendations from the public hearing that was held at the Planning Advisory Commission meeting on April 15th.
All right. Everybody had a chance to look that over. I would be looking then for a motion to approve the IUP for mining by Merlin Valerius with the following 8 conditions and findings of fact as recommended by the Planning Advisory Commission and listed below in the request. Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, moving on to consideration of the interim use permit application for a contractor's yard by Ryan Bugren. Nancy.
Yes, Planning Commission recommended approval with the 14 conditions and the finding of facts that are listed in your packet.
All right. Any questions for Nancy? If not, then I would be looking for that motion to approve that IUP request with the listings and the findings of fact as presented.
Madam Chair, I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, next item, consider approval of the preliminary and final simple plat of the Schumacher Acres, Catlin Lake properties. Nancy.
This is in Blue Hill Township on 19.5 acres in the General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended approval with the 4 conditions that are listed in your packet.
All right. Any questions for Nancy? If not, I'd be looking for that motion to approve the preliminary and final simple plat of Schumacher Acres with the consists of the 3 lots as are recommended by the Planning Commission with the 4 conditions listed in the background for justification.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner
As
Smeeze.
conditioned.
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Phobie. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. All right, moving on to consideration of the interim use permit for application for home business and accessory building, antiques and furniture by Carol Gordon. Nancy.
This is in Section 14 of Oric Township. It's on 10 acres in the General Rural District. Planning Commission recommended the approval of the 13 conditions and the findings of fact that are listed in your packet.
All right, any questions for Nancy? All right, hearing none, I would be looking then for the motion to approve the application by Carol Gordon for a home business and accessory building, antiques and furniture with the following conditions and findings of fact as recommended by the Planning Advisory Commission and listed below in the background justification.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval as conditioned.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further questions? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
Nancy?
That's all I have.
All right, at this time, we do have a scheduled recess in our regular meeting for a break, so we will take a, 10-minute break then? We'll be back at 10:25. All right. And to introducing the Sherburne County Mental Health Action Team, otherwise known as MAP. Amanda. Hello.
Morning, Commissioners. Another friendly acronym for you. So, as you will hear in our next agenda item, May is Mental Health Month. So we thought it would be a great time to update the board on a newly formed group called the Mental Health Action Team. Does this thing work? There we go. So MAT is a group of roughly 20 members, both combined internal agencies such as the Sheriff's Office, County Attorney's Office, Community Corrections, Veteran Services, and then Health and Human Services, as well as outside groups such as Rivers of Hope, Central Minnesota Mental Health Center, and Nystrom's and Associates. Our group will likely evolve over time, possibly to include members of the bench, public defenders, and other outside agencies, but really this is a new group, and so until we have a concrete purpose and vision, we'd really want to keep it small, just to ensure that it's a good use of everybody's time. So why another committee? Why a mental health action team? The idea actually originated when we received the FACES award. Just to remind you, FACES is a federal grant for our work with children with incarcerated parents. Stands for Family and Caregiver External Support, and that's a grant actually with the Sheriff's Office. There's lots of activities in that grant, ranging from a co-responder program to, again, family-friendly jail visitation to also community supports. And then we also have RAP, which is our Release Advanced Planning Program. As I was speaking to the sheriff about how to organize these different initiatives, we realized we don't want for meetings to become the priority and for there to be a lot of folks in meetings, but at the same time, we want to prevent folks from working in silos. And so he had suggested that we organize ourselves similar to St. Cloud. In St. Cloud, they have a lot of different initiatives also going on, and so they've organized themselves into the St. Cloud Mental Health Steering Committee. That group is probably 50 to 60 members. It's large, and so we don't necessarily want to create that, but at the same time, when we talk about who's at the table with RAP, who's at the table with our FACES program, who's at the table with our co-responder, we recognize there's a lot of the same faces around the room. So law enforcement, HHS, community corrections, county attorney, community providers. While mental health is a really big umbrella to even try to wrap your hands around, the Sherburne County MAT is focused really on where we intersect with individuals on the criminal justice system, and really also wanting to think about people where we intersect with individuals on a continuum. So this is my chicken scratches, so the disclaimer is that this is kind of what's in my head, nobody else's, but at the same time, I've shown this to a few people and nobody has disagreed with me. So when we mention all these different acronyms and all these different programs, it's easy to get confused with what program we're talking about. Also, as we think about RAP and the different part of our FACES program, and then also prevention services to try to divert people from entering the system once or entering the system again, we also want to think about how we string together these programs on a continuum and work with folks holistically, recognizing that individuals probably aren't going to stay on one place of this continuum for very long, and that we really want to move people further this way into that prevention system. So MAT has met 3 times. Like I said, it's a newly formed group. And so our first meeting was really kind of a ground setting meeting, if you will. Why are we here? We know that there's reason for us to be here, things for us to talk about, but what exactly is that? Our second meeting, we talked about what do we want to do? And where we landed was prevention with our high system utilizers as a place to start, realizing that where we want to go with this group will likely evolve over time. So when we talk about prevention, how can we serve these folks from continually re-entering the system and also not operating in crisis? And now, what our task currently is, great idea, we need a release of information to get there. And so that really that release of information will help us almost case manage these folks, the high system utilizers, since they'll probably need more intensive partnership with community agencies to get there. So when we talk about who our high utilizers are, to me, this is kind of our low-hanging fruit. Hopefully, this will be some easy wins with a big impact. But when I say easy wins, I don't mean that this is going to be easy work by any means. These folks are high system utilizers because they come with a lot of needs. But again, if we can really get out of that siloed approach of thinking and really come together almost like a wraparound services and wrap our arms around how can we get you what you need so you're not operating in crisis all the time, and again, utilizing the jail and detox and the emergency department. Those are very expensive places to be. So both from a human and client perspective, but also from a cost perspective. When we look at, and again, just our internal agencies, who our high utilizers are with our sheriff's office, which is defined as 3 or more interactions in 6 months. 11 of those 14 individuals were known to HHS. So that's 80% of folks that we know of, either through closed cases or open cases. When we do the same with our community corrections, so folks on our corrections caseloads with known mental health or chemical dependency needs, 15 of them are known to HHS, so it's about roughly 65%. So really, even folks that are known to us in the county, where can we kind of sign those releases of information and then case manage them, hopefully to a much more secure and stable place. So just wanted to, you saw that the members on the first slide were our members of our mental health action team. So I want to turn it over to 2 of those members just to give their perspective and the benefits they see of how we are organizing ourselves. So with that, Jay? Jay said he wasn't prepared to say anything.
I find that hard to believe. Sorry, Jay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I already got the heat from the rest of them here that I said I didn't have a speech prepared, and they said that was never a problem for me. But seriously, I want to thank Amanda for starting this initiative up. I think it's it's really a great deal. Mary Jo and I got invited to Stearns County's CAT. It's probably been at least a couple years ago. And so we were attending that. I was taken back with that group. I thought it was great, but like Amanda said, there must be 50, 60 people that are on this, and it's crazy how big it is. So I don't know how they get things done, but they do a good job. So when Amanda brought this forward for us and to include RAP and the other things, I think it's really a benefit to Sherburne County. And then when we started looking at who our high-end utilizers are, you could see from the chart there that Community Corrections has 23, and they're known to the jail, obviously, and they're known to Health and Human Services, and we talked about the silo effect. I mean, why shouldn't we? I don't know if the social workers are willing to ride along with the probation officers, but the probation officers are willing to ride along with the social workers and go out into the community. I think we could see some of these people together, so that cut down on some of the multi-contacts and show more of a unified front together. I think that's really a positive endeavor. So, and also I got to give kudos to Tim Syme, because here's this big issue with data practices. How do we communicate amongst ourselves? Which, although I've been doing this a real long time, it always befuddles me that we can't share information between agencies within the department, but we have to follow the data practices rule. So our friend Tim Syme got a hold of it and came up with the release that's, I think, going to really work well to benefit. So anyway, that's my testimonial.
Thank you,
Please
Jay.
support it. Thank you.
Yes.
As you can well imagine, people who have mental health issues actually permeate the caseload in the criminal division. What was very concerning is last year, between 2019 to 2020, we saw a 24% increase in our civil commitments as well. And oftentimes what we find in dealing with those caseloads is we're grappling. What services are out there? How do we fill the holes? And so I wish I could take credit for this idea. I cannot. I have to give all kudos to Amanda and Joel. And I'm not sure which of those two is the top, but I'm pretty sure they're even. But to be able to identify where we can better serve the individuals with the objective of giving them the tools that they need to live constructive lives in our community and not come back into the criminal justice system, or to not have to be civilly committed or restored to competency. That is just an excellent goal. And so that is why I'm so invested in this and will dedicate resources to it to try and better help our citizens.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy.
So while Mr. Hanshu said, hopefully you'll support, again, our ask isn't anything at this time. Again, just in support of Mental Health Awareness Month, we wanted the board to recognize one of the newly formed groups and initiatives that we have surrounding mental health.
We obviously, I have a lot of comments, and I think Lisa, and then we'll go down to Felix. Thank you.
Chair. So I think it was about 2 years ago, I sat at a conference that the Stearns County or the City of St. Cloud did their presentation on the structure and the system that they have. And I believe I talked with the sheriff about it way back then. And, you know, many of you know I lost 2 brothers to mental health issues and chemical dependency, and that's a big reason why I continue to serve in a public capacity as I do. So this is just such a win for not the masses of people, but for those frequent utilizers that have really tough things going on in their life, but also financially are a huge burden to our systems and our taxpayers. So this is a win for all of us and for these individuals. And I remember part of the presentation where they were able to already quantify the savings that they were having as a county and a city. Central Minnesota Mental Health is also involved in their system. And then one of the presenters talked about having just a social visit with a person who used to just be in the jail. Over a third of the year, they would be in the jail, and they were so lonely, but they've gotten this person the services that they needed, and now every once in a while they just have a social visit. And it was so moving. There wasn't a dry eye in the room by the end of this presentation. So thanks for supporting lives and hopefully saving money for the taxpayers.
Mr. Smeezy.
I was on the Central Minnesota Mental Health Center when they started their outreach, their team that went out and intervened and helped people, and that was a very significant thing to have going on. And I believe I also attended the meeting that you're talking about. It was at AMC conference. And I remember Jay being there as well. And they talked about doing something similar. And in fact, Central Minnesota Mental Health Center was part of it and that sort of thing. So, you know, I think the benefit of this is, you know, manyfold, but twofold, I think. First of all, it's cost effective. As a commissioner, we think about money. But probably the second and the most significant thing is the impact it has on lives of those individuals that, you know, that team comes in contact with, and I think that's huge. So not only cost effective, but saving lives, I think, in the long run. So thank you. And if you don't want anything, I got it for you.
You said the right words there.
You had me there.
Commissioner Dolan.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and obviously this is a noble effort, and it'll pay dividends. It's a model that we've seen effective other places, so it's great to see. But above and beyond this specifically, I think it calls into focus something that should be more widely used in our county government is taking a look at, it's easy for us as departments because we have different funding mechanisms, we have different laws and disclosures and different protections for the information we have, but finding ways to work together, finding a problem, and going outside the walls of your department to solve it and be effective for the taxpayers is a key thing that I think we need to do more of, both in Health and Human Services and across the county. So kudos to all of you working on this together. It's awesome.
Commissioner Brandt?
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a thank you also that I'm so pleased to hear that we were able to collaborate and bring this together. And I really appreciate your hard work and efforts, and so thank you again.
Well, as you can tell, you definitely have our full support, and I cannot thank you enough for being willing to pull this together to work on it, because I know you're starting with the low-hanging fruit, which can lead then to, you'll get someone in that maybe you can determine, hey, maybe there's a way to stop this right now and prevent a frequent flyer situation. So kudos to you all, and you have our support, most definitely. Thank you for all your work. All right, moving on then to our next item, which is consider the proclamation of May as Mental Health Month. And we have our Social Services Supervisor, Victoria Jonas.
Good morning.
Welcome.
I am Victoria Johannes, Supervisor of the Behavioral Health and Protection Unit at Sherburne County.
I'm Allison Brockway. I supervise children's mental health at Sherburne County.
And we also have Kaylee Lira with us today. She is one of the children's mental health social workers. So the mental health proclamation that we'd like to bring to you today reads, whereas addressing the complex mental health needs of adults, children, youth, and families today is fundamental to building the health, resilience, and future of Minnesota, and whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall physical health and emotional well-being, and whereas mental illness will strike 1 in 4 persons in a given year, regardless of age, gender, race, ethnicity, religion, or economic status. And whereas people who have mental illness can recover and lead full productive lives. And whereas the need for comprehensive, coordinated mental health services for children, youth, adults, and families places upon our community a critical responsibility. And whereas untreated and undertreated mental illness costs public and private employers billions of dollars annually through absenteeism, turnover, low productivity, and increased medical costs. And whereas the guiding principles of community mental health have always been comprehensive care, cost efficiency, effective management, high-quality treatment, consumer responsive services, and whereas community-based services that respond to individual and family needs are cost-effective and beneficial to consumers and the community. And whereas Sherburne County, in its policy and planning roles, supports effectively caring for the mental health needs of adults, children, youth, and families in our community. So we respectfully request that you recognize May as Mental Health Awareness Month.
Thank you, Ms. Johannes. All right, I would then be looking for a motion to approve the proclamation of May being our Mental Health Month in Sherburne County.
Madam Chair, I move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phoebe, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Yes.
We would like to share a bit more information to present to you, if we may.
Go ahead.
We want to acknowledge and stand beside those individuals and families who deal with mental health issues each day. We also want to thank the board for your support. We feel it through the actions taken and the resources allocated to allow us to do the work that we do. We are very proud of the work being done at Sherburne County, including children's mental health and adult mental health case management, the System of Care Grant, STIR, which is Stronger Together, Inspiring Resilience, and CAMI, our 4-county community adult mental health initiative. We want to share with you 2 stories of success today, but before we do that, we would like to talk a little bit about the world of mental health in Sherburne County. At Sherburne County, we have 7 children's mental health staff and 7 adult mental health staff. Our mental health clients access the emergency room or the hospital as needed to ensure their own safety and the safety of others due to mental health issues. During this past month, between our adult and children's mental health units, we had 25 clients who were either evaluated at the ER or admitted for inpatient mental health hospitalization. 25 clients in 1 month. If you ask a case manager what their biggest fear is, most would say that they fear losing a client to suicide. When a suicide occurs among our clients, despite our best efforts, case managers often question if perhaps they didn't do enough or they may have failed at protecting their client. Yes, we are professionals, and we know that it's ultimately not our responsibility when a client ends his or her life. But we went into this line of work to help others and to protect individuals and families. A loss to suicide is a devastating loss for case managers. Among the current children's mental health and adult mental health staff, 6 case managers have lost a client to suicide. 6 of 14 of our staff have experienced a current or recent client that has taken his or her own life. One of the only opportunities that we have been able to identify from these situations is that the suicide pushes staff and supervisors to focus even more on asking those hard questions and leaving no reasonable stone unturned when working with clients in which safety is such a prominent issue. These are difficult conversations to have, but they are necessary conversations to have since imminent safety risks occur on a regular basis for our clients and our staff. Again, we thank you for your support, and we share these numbers with you to help you understand the very real fear that our staff live with on a daily basis. We have created a critical incident policy to ensure that we encourage a culture of support and acknowledgement of secondary trauma. Our staff tend to be better at taking care of others than taking care of themselves. As their supervisors, it's up to us to encourage self-care and to process critical incidents with them. We also don't have an ask of you today, but want to take the time to shine the spotlight on our staff who work endlessly for the needs of others. We also want to highlight the importance of creating and maintaining a trauma-informed work culture. Again, thank you for your support and encouragement to allow us to do the best work that we can do. And on to a couple of success stories.
Good morning. My name is Kaylee Lira, and I'm a children's mental health social worker here at Health and Human Services. I'd like to share a story of strength, resiliency, and success with the family I worked with over the past year. An assessment was completed in August of 2019 for Elise, and she was the 13-year-old at the time. She had diagnoses of autism spectrum disorder, major depressive disorder, ADHD, and other specified anxiety disorder. Her autism disorder was pretty recent, and parents were kind of feeling lost about what's appropriate, where can I access these services, and came to us for help. This family honestly really impressed me from the very first visit. The mom, Tracy, was very open to psychoeducation, suggestions, discussing past interventions and attempts that they had made that weren't as successful as they had hoped. She was able to acknowledge that as a parent, both her and her husband had parented Elise in a way that maybe didn't quite match what she was needing at the time. She had a deep sense of wanting changes within their family functioning, but really just kind of needed some support to get there. Elise was struggling with being bullied at school, issues with school engagement and her schoolwork getting done, defiance towards her parents, a lot of frequent arguing and bullying of her siblings, and overall struggles with just her social skills. With the support of myself with monthly check-ins, collaborating with the people they were working with, Greater Minnesota Family Services, stepping in with in-home skills for Elise, and Mainstream Family Services doing some parenting education and support, along with a variety of community activities we connected them with. The family really thrived over the 14 months that I worked with them. The parents met with their parenting educator weekly to discuss parenting tips, parenting styles, going over their own backgrounds and experiences and how that kind of pertains to the parenting that they were doing. They were open to always trying anything new, and I remember spending a lot of meetings with Tracy just celebrating when she could tell me she learned something, tried it, and then it worked, and just kind of the amazement of, I feel like we're getting somewhere. They were able to change their outlook from Elise needing to make the changes to really seeing there was a support for a whole family change that was needing, and that it was going to be a little bit of trial and error. Elise also met with her skills worker who helped her with anxiety, social skills, her sibling interactions, and becoming a little bit more flexible in her thinking. She also got to go kayaking through a collaboration that we had with Greater Minnesota, and then also went to a Connect group here at the local YMCA that included some social workers and just an opportunity for teenagers to get together and have fun. This case stands out for me because it's a really good example of the community supports that we've worked really hard at HHS to collaborate with and try new things with, but also addressing how case management from a family approach instead of that individual approach is really crucial for the lasting changes. I closed this case in late 2020, but I have gotten 2 email updates since then. The last one was maybe a month ago, and it read, "Hi Kaylee, just wanted to drop a line to say hi and give you another positive update on Elise. She is doing so well. High school has been great for her so far, and she even says that she loves it. She did amazing with distance learning. Her grades were mostly A's and B's. Her teachers are sending me positive emails on her behavior, and I just got off the phone with her special ed teacher who said because of her progress, she no longer qualifies for summer school this year. You were our stepping stone to all of this. I know we are the ones doing the work, but without your guidance and support, we wouldn't be here. We continue to work with Jenna and Nikki and are also grateful for everything we have learned from them. Anyways, I hope you and your family are well and stay healthy. I will check in every now and again, and thank you for everything you've done for us. Take care, Tracy." Messages like this, success like this, that's how we keep going. This year has been challenging on every level and meaning of the word. No one has taught us to do social work in a pandemic. That's new. A lot of families are suffering. Mental health concerns are on the rise as loneliness and frustrations rise as well. And then we get updates like that one above. We saved in our emails to look back on during the hard times, and we keep pushing and do the best work we can every day. So we thank you for your support as it really starts at the top.
And I would like to give a success story about an adult mental health client. My staff person, Grace Berg, is not able to be with us today, so I'm sharing on her behalf. And Grace shares about Jen, her client, and that's not her real name. Jen is in her late 40s, and she initially called our agency in crisis in June of 2020 during the COVID pandemic. She reached adult mental health coverage worker Grace, and they spoke for over an hour regarding her situation and her desire to access mental health services. During the conversation, Jen reported that she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder. She had been psychiatrically hospitalized in 2004, but hadn't received formal mental health services since that time, 16 years of no services. Jen reported mania, irritability, depression, anxiety, and agitation throughout her adult life. She said her symptoms, particularly the mania, had been ruining her life. For most of her adult years, Jen self-medicated with alcohol and marijuana. She reported going through 9 jobs within the past 12 months, and she was sick and tired of cycling in and out of jobs because of her mental health symptoms. Jen didn't have any medical insurance. She had no mental health providers at the time of that first conversation. Grace explained to her where to start and the steps Jen needed to take to establish case management services. Grace coached Jen on how to apply for medical assistance, and together, over the phone, they set up an intake to get Jen's diagnostic assessment completed to allow her to qualify for voluntary adult mental health services through our agency. By early August, Jen had completed all the tasks that had been recommended through her voluntary adult mental health case. She was eager and willing to make changes to stabilize her mental health. Since that time, Jen has maintained her health insurance, engaged in individual therapy and consistent psychiatry. She is no longer abusing chemicals and is participating in adult rehabilitative mental health services, which we refer to as ARMS. Jen has participated in 2 different adult mental health partial hospitalization programs to stabilize acute mental health symptoms, as well as a mental health day treatment program to help her learn more long-term coping skills. Jen is currently in the process of applying for Social Security disability and reports feeling hopeful about her future for the first time in a very long time. She still struggles with mental health symptoms and recognizes that she will have a lifelong relationship with her mental health that she will need to continue to address. Jen has gained many coping skills to help her get through the challenging times. While Jen and Grace have never met face-to-face due to the pandemic, Jen continuously impresses Grace with her level of willingness and her desire to work toward continuous stabilization of her mental health symptoms. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to our stories and for your ongoing support of mental health services at Sherburne County.
No, thank you very much for all of your work. I know that it just is very heartwarming to know that there's dedicated individuals in your group that want to reach out and do what we can, because it's important. It just is. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. That's you need to take a breath. Okay. Next item on the agenda is to consider the reclassification of an office assistant to administrative assistant 1 in the assessor's office.
Good morning,
Yeah,
Commissioners.
good morning.
I'm here to seek approval to reclassify our office assistant position to the administrative assistant 1 position. Currently, there's duties under the administrative assistant 1 position that is only exclusive to that position, and we're trying to do, well, my goal is to have some cross-training with the clerical staff in the office to make us more efficient to serve the public and serve other offices. If the administrative assistant 1 is out for a week, there's specific duties that only she currently does that has to be held until she gets back. So in doing this, we can cross-train the clerical staff and be able to serve everybody much more efficiently. And our current budget does have sufficient capacity for this reclassification. I did check into that for you. Any questions?
Any questions?
So the cost in 2021 would be $1,500, is that correct?
Approximately, yeah.
And would it be a similar cost then in 2022? We're not adding a position, we're just changing class.
We're just changing classification.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? If not, then I would be looking for a motion to approve the reclassification of the current office assistant to administrative assistant 1 in the county assessor's office.
I'll move approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Phobie, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to considering the consider approval of the response letter to the Elk River landfill regarding certificate of need for cell 20. Hello, Dave.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. So, as you recall, during the workshop session, I kind of went over the backstory of the need for this letter. We received a letter from Elk River Landfill requesting certificate of need for the gap that exists in their last cell, which is cell 20. They provided data which staff did not agree with that information. So if we did not agree, we were to provide a letter with our own data. And that is what you have before you. Any questions on that letter?
Any questions?
Chair,
Commissioner Phobie.
where can I find that letter?
It was mailed out.
Oh, it was
It was
mailed out.
emailed out.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't
Not in
able
the
to get it done by the time the RBAs were due. So,
I think Bruce is bringing down a copy for
Okay,
you.
thank you. I didn't get to it.
I thought that the letter did a pretty good job of explaining the position. And especially after our discussion at workshop.
mhm.
Madam Chair. Dave, is there some industry standardized way of calculating that need? Why, I don't disagree with our response at all, but I'm just curious why there can be such a delta in people's models. Is there an industry standard for calculating that or not?
So the landfill, when they were drafting their letter, our draft solid waste management plan was not completed yet.
Okay.
So they were taking data and they had to do their own projections. They projected out 10 years, 15 years, and then 20 years. So when I received that and I looked at it and I knew we were in the process of doing our solid waste management plan, which includes a goal volume table, I sat down and looked at the two and noticed that their projections were generous. So, yes.
So the delta
Also,
it just comes from the
it
extrapolation of
just comes
data.
from their extract. I don't know how they arrived at the data that they did, but it was not consistent with the data that we have in our goal volume table. Also, we're only required by Minnesota rule to provide for a 10-year snapshot. We do not have to provide for 15 years or 20 years. So that's what you have in front of you.
Okay.
10 years based on our goal volume table, which hasn't been approved by the state yet, but I don't really see where they would have, we were using their model, so I don't have any reservations providing this letter at all.
Okay. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Smeezy.
Now, this is just Sherburne County waste here.
Correct.
So we're disputing that. And how does that weigh in terms of changing the permitting for from construction to MS? I mean, we clearly in this county, every year, take enough waste to cover our needs for the next 20 years, 30 years.
Madam Chair, Commissioner, every county is requested to do the same. So Hennepin County is doing a similar letter. Stearns County, I had a phone call from their staff last week saying, have you presented to your board yet? I said, told them that May 4th, I'll be going before my board. So I'm not sure if Stearns County's done that yet, but other counties are any county that provides waste to Elk River landfill was requested to provide a certificate of need letter similar to what you have in front of you. And the model of this letter, I used examples that metropolitan counties did when Burnsville landfill reached out to those counties. So that's the structure I followed off of.
So just help me. So what you're saying here is if every county that around us that is using our landfill would reduce the amount of waste, that might change the overall need for a permit to, I think we just need to know that this is just Sherburne County that we're talking about, but we're hoping that every other county is doing the same thing and demonstrating less need.
Correct. So what Elk River landfill will do, once they receive all the letters from all the counties, they're gonna have to put together a request. They send it to the state reviews it, the state then they would have to approve that certificate of need for that gap. And it's just on cell 20. Has nothing to do with any future requested expansions of the landfill. This is just on their last cell, which is already, the footprint is permitted.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Bruce?
Thank you, Chair Danielowski, members of the commission. With your permission, should you intend to approve the letter today, it is the recommendation of the county attorney and I that you add a CC to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to the letter.
Any other questions?
I'll move it with that CC on it.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Schmeezing.
I'll second.
Ooh. Seconded by Commissioner Dolan to approve and authorize the county board chair to sign a response letter to the Elk River landfill regarding its request for certificate of need for cell 20. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keisha, I'll provide you with that letter, then you can have Chair Danielowski sign it. And I'll add the CC on.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next, considering the issuance of a special hauling permit pursuant to Minnesota statute 169.869. Andrew.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Before you, with the consideration of the issuance of the special hauling permit, if I can give a little background on the topic. Currently, trucks are allowed up to 80,000 pounds. This permit allows 6-axle vehicles up to 90,000, 7-axle vehicles up to 97,000 pounds. Normally, you wouldn't see an engineer up here advocating for additional weights on our roads. There are some benefits that come out of this. With the additional axles, there is a reduced axle weight per axle on our county roads, and potentially reduced number of hauling vehicles on our roads because they can haul larger payloads. Along with that, there are some things that do raise concerns. One is just overall conditions, safety, and condition of our roadways, but also understanding the need to balance the local commerce and industry in the area. One of the ways that I think we're able to accomplish that is to issue these special hauling permits in an area that is more conducive to this style of hauling, is more conducive to almost direct access, if you will, to the trunk highway system, which is built specifically for some of these larger vehicles and these larger payloads, versus our county road and our county road system that is not necessarily made for that. As part of the statute, if I can go into, we do need to permit those overweight vehicles. We have not done that in the past. As part of the statute, it does ask that we work with the haulers and identify preferred routes that we would like them to take, and they are simply encouraged to utilize those routes under those permits. So that raises some concern that it's just an encouragement. However, that being said, should there be a blatant abuse of utilizing those agreed upon routes, it is an annual permit and we do not necessarily need to renew that permit for the following years if there's issues with any specific haulers, which we don't anticipate. So I guess with that, we take a look at a couple of scenarios, took a look at a half-mile buffer off of our trunk highway systems and also a 1-mile buffer off of our trunk highway systems. From the staff's perspective, we felt that 1-mile buffer would be more suitable for the industries, both commercial and industrial, that might be utilizing this special hauling permit, and come forward with that recommendation to allow those vehicles to be permitted within that 1-mile buffer area of our trunk highway system within Sherburne County. So with that, I will open it for any questions.
Any questions for Andrew? Commissioner? Commissioner Smeezing?
I just have, so now you'll issue these permits to companies, or will they individual trucks, or how do you do that?
Good question. Commissioner Smeezing, so this is an individual vehicle permit. For the 6-axle vehicles, it's charged at $300 for an annual permit per vehicle. 7-axle would be $500. So what that cost helps do is offset the additional damages to the roadway system, so that doesn't necessarily get entirely passed upon to the taxpayers.
And so then once they're permitted, then they're allowed within a mile to go off to dump their load and return, or is that what the?
Another great question, Chair Danielowski, Commissioner Smeezing. So that's a little bit of the nuance. So what I'm asking is that we're able to permit vehicles that are owned by a company within that 1 mile buffer area. Under statutory language, they are encouraged to use that agreed upon preferred route, but not required to.
Right.
So technically, they can travel anywhere on any one of our county roads once we give that permit. We don't want them to do that because that's going to add additional wear and tear. We want them to utilize that shortest route to get to the trunk highway system, which is what we're going to have a conversation with them about during.
But once they get outside that 1 mile, they're still okay? Is that what you're saying?
According to statute, because of the way the permit states, is that they're just encouraged to use the locally identified routes, not required. And that was to my point earlier, is we're going to ask them to make the most direct route to the MnDOT system. Should they choose not to, then there might be an issue with the reissuance of the permit in the following year.
So really, we issue the permit and they're able to go where they want to go. We're asking them to stay within a mile.
Correct.
And we're asking them to use routes that would be better. Okay, I understand.
Commissioner Dolan?
Yeah, and I was just going to say, I can kind of speak to kind of the way this came up, is we had a local company that was issued a permit by the state, and part of that permit from the state is to get a permit from us, which we traditionally haven't done, and these companies are investing in these trucks for the reasons that Andrew said, efficiencies, safety and everything. But in order to get onto their preferred route, they need to go, their company isn't directly on 169 or Highway 10. They have to go on our county roads. So it's just a matter of getting them from where they are within a mile of our state transportation system to get them permitted to get onto that route. And Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of the state permits are almost project specific to a certain extent. In talking to some of these companies, a lot of it is, it's not project driven, it's more one place to a plant, and that plant is stationary for the most part. So from what I've seen thus far, it's not a permit that will go willy-nilly all over the place. It's more specific routes from what I see.
Correct.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, basically you're gonna talk to them and encourage their use of the county road systems that we have built to be able to withstand their vehicle weight compared to some of the other county roads that we do not have that same build of.
That is correct. We're going to ask them to make the most direct route to the state system. And
Okay.
we'll evaluate each one of the permits as they come in individually and based on the routes and the locations that they are situated at. I should also note that this is only for road construction materials. That's the way the statute's currently written.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm not in opposition to this. I just needed to understand it. I mean, we need, trucks pay a lot of taxes, and they need to be able to move around and do their work. So I appreciate that, and it's a benefit to them to get their trucks back onto the main arteries as quickly as possible as well. They won't, I would guess that for the most part, they'll be pretty cooperative and working. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, and then this also helps us to protect the taxpayers from any undue burden of road maintenance due to heavy equipment use too, so. All right, any other questions?
Well, just one more comment. I mean, we could spend, if we got the Minnesota Truckers Association, we could spend hours talking about what truck weight limits should be. So this is pretty simple compared to that, so.
Indeed.
All right.
Which I was a member, you know. So.
With that, then, I'd be looking for a motion to authorize the County Public Works Director to issue special hauling permits pursuant to Minnesota Statute 169.869 to within 1 mile of US 10, Trunk Highway 24, Trunk Highway 25, and Trunk Highway 169.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of that authorization.
Motion made by Commissioner Dolan,
I'll second.
seconded by Commissioner Smeezing. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Thank you, Andrew. All right. Oh, now we're going to move on to consider the reappointment of county engineer. Bruce.
Thank you, Chair Danielowski, members of the commission. So this is Andrew's other hat, Public Works Director and then County Engineer. Per statute, his 4-year appointment is up for reconsideration for another 4 years. I did put in the request for board action a list of projects that he's worked on over the last 4 years. I also noted for the board 3 areas that Andrew and I are working collaboratively on. One is really building stronger communications and relationships with our partners. 2 is financial management and efficiencies, and then 3 is looking at technology and best practices. So I do recommend the county engineer be considered for reappointment.
All right. Any questions for Bruce? Hearing none, then, I would be looking for a motion to approve. Let me see, where is that?
Chair Danielowski, I'll
Yes.
move approval of the reappointment of County Engineer Andrew Witter to a 4-term.
Motion made by Commissioner Fobi, seconded by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion? Commissioner Smeezing.
Just a comment, number 1, I think, is an area that we can really work on, and I think it includes our administrator and our public works director to try to, we have some issues out there that I think we need to be working our way through. So I just wanted to make that comment as part of this.
Okay. I did also want to say that I do appreciate putting this together, but I do also appreciate Andrew's efforts and his due diligence on working the amount of grants I think that we have been successful at in the recent years since Mr. Witter has joined us, I think is speaks volumes. And just the associates that he works with have high praise for working with him and such, and so I do appreciate your efforts of where you brought us in our ability to provide the needed upgrades to our roads that are much needed, and the efforts you've put into making sure we can do that as cost effectively as possible for the taxpayer. Commissioner Fobi.
Thanks, Chair Danielowski. And I too, I just want to say, Andrew and I we're kind of frequent flyers this year with 169 and 4 being a top priority as a county. And so working at that at every angle, I've just watched you with incredible, just knowing what's out there and bringing everything to the table with that and all that's going on with County 4 and Zimmerman. Appreciate all the work on those projects and all the projects of our county.
Yes, we do have a lot of them. All right, anything else? Okay, so we have a motion on the table. We didn't pass that yet, did we? I'm sorry, I'm losing it. What time is it? With that being said then, I would entertain, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. Got so into the praise factor that lost track of. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right, moving on. Okay, next item, consider recommended changes to the zoning ordinance regarding the Board of Adjustment. Nancy?
Good morning again, Madam Chair, Commissioners. So, you've seen this draft amendment several times. At the last meeting, there was concern about subdivision 3, section 1B, and the direction was try to reword that item to better suit what you were looking for. I see that it's on the first page of the draft amendments. It's in very dark blue. Beyond that, I guess, I just leave it up to you to give me some direction on, how much you want to talk about these amendments, and go from there. Get some direction on where to go.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Dolan?
I guess, in my opinion, I support the language changes that we've integrated in here. I think we've had several discussions. We've had a couple workshops. We've reached out to our township partners and had those discussions and tried to do our best to integrate everybody's input into something that works for the greater good. And I think, further discussion on much of this is probably letting the pursuit of perfect get in the way of good. And I would move approval of the presented language that staff has worked through and presented to us.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dolan, a second by Commissioner Brandt. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Smeezing?
this goes to the Planning Commission?
That would be the next step.
That'd be the next step. I'm going to vote against this. I believe that the Planning Commission should be weighing in on it, and I don't want to present it like I'm endorsing it, because I do have some questions about it. I've expressed them.
All right, any further discussion? Commissioner Phobie?
Chair Danielowski and members, I really appreciate the work on this. I appreciate the rewording that actually it looks like we're back to maybe an original wording or close to. We've seen a few different versions, so I think I've said all along, while I don't disagree with the goals that we're trying to get to, that our end point with all of this, I think from the get-go I said what's possibly even more important when you have a goal is the process that you use getting there. And that's been difficult and challenging, I think, with our township members and our township meeting at the quarterly and the process that we've taken. And so I too, I'm going to vote against this and wait and see what Planning Commission comes up with after they've reviewed it, so we can hear from them. So it's
Great. Any further comments?
Madam Chair, I think we should do a roll call on this so that we know
Okay.
recorded how the vote went.
All right, there has been a request for a roll call vote. I do want to make one comment. I know that these are hard changes when we're looking at doing, changing some of the processes of how it has worked in the past, trying to create a better process. I all along have gone along with the theory that I like to see more participation and citizen engagement when you can. And I think this provides an opportunity to open that up more to the citizenry, to be able to participate in these various boards as versus always an elected role. So that is why I've talked to some of my township members and expressed that to me is the reason that I'm supportive of this, because it does allow the opportunity to open it up to the citizenry and get more of that participation from your township residents to be a part of processes. And that is why I'm supportive of this change at this time. And I think it still leaves the door open that if we are not successful in getting those citizens involved, then we have the supervisors to fall back on. And so that is one reason why I am supportive of this movement.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Dolan.
And I just want to say, you know, this has been one of the tougher things that we've worked through, both as staff and as a board and our partners at the townships. There's been some tough discussions and a lot of it. And I'm proud of the way we worked through it. You know, this board often comes to an easy consensus, but we have divergent thoughts on this, and that's absolutely fine, and that's part of the process. And I respect the input that all of our township supervisors gave, the public gave, and my colleagues gave through this process. And I think going through this is going to benefit us from a process perspective and understanding how we need to attack these things in the future as well. So I just want to put that out there, that I appreciate and respect everybody's position on this.
And if I just can add to that, I mean, now we're going to have the benefit of the opportunity to hear from the Planning Commission.
Yep.
So I mean, the process is working. Even we don't agree, but it's working.
Exactly.
Okay, with that being said then, no further discussion. We will take roll call vote. Keisha.
Commissioner Schmiesing?
Nay.
Commissioner Phobie?
No.
Commissioner Danielowski?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt?
Aye.
And Commissioner Dolan?
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes 3-2. All right, thank you, everybody, for your hard work on this, and we'll move on then to our next item on our agenda is
Thank
to
you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Commissioner Danielowski, who was the second on that?
Barb. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on then to receive the update on our COVID-19 pandemic and county response. I missed that. He probably had a real funny down there.
Well, I mean, when you have to ask me, now we really lost it in this room. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, gosh, good thing I'm ahead of schedule too. Can I get
You're doing good.
kudos on this? All right, moving on then to receive the update on the COVID-19 pandemic and county response. Nicole.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Welcome.
Thank you. There we go. All right, some updates again. So I'm going to start with the testing rate. Overall, Minnesota is doing a great job promoting testing. We are actually higher than we were in February, believe it or not. So folks are still getting in to get tested, and I have good news about what's next. The positivity rate has decreased. So over the last couple of weeks, we've seen that come down a whole %. Although it went up pretty quickly in March, it's coming down nicely now in the end of April and hopefully in May here. So less of those tests that are happening are positive. We're still in that caution range, but we're getting closer to be less than that. So good news there. This is actually a graph of the beginning of the 14-day case rate formulas that the schools have been getting since August. So kind of a year in review for our school folks. This was really helpful for them to see where we started, where we peaked, how we've come down, and how we've had a little rise in cases, but really kept it low compared to where we were in the fall, like October, November. So good news there, and we are still coming down and are coming down this week too for the projected numbers. So good deals. Not so great, we're still really high for central Minnesota. We're kind of leading the pack for the number of cases and in that dark saturation rate. But we've been there for the last few weeks, and so I think the mitigation strategies have either held or, like I said, we're seeing some decreases in that. And overall, we're third in the state. So we were first last week, so we've come down a little bit. So I was pleased to see that, but overall, we're trending in the right direction. But we've certainly had our fair share of high cases here in central Minnesota, and in particular, here in Sherburne County. So it's just a little bit of a snippet. The graph on the right is the hospitalization rate for the state. And as you can see, that is still going up. Certainly not at the peak that we were a few months ago, but hospitalizations are still up throughout the state. Overall, for the central region, we're not as high as the metro. And the picture here on the new COVID hospital admissions, this is just one point in time. So as of April 23rd, this was kind of the layout of those age groups of folks in the hospital. So certainly the majority of those are that 50-plus group, but there are some less than that, the 40s, 30s, 20s, and even a few in their teens. And overall, we're seeing that variance that is throughout Minnesota has had some severity when it comes to symptoms. Although deaths are low, hospitalizations are still pretty high. And again, we're making progress on vaccinations, but so are all of our partners. So we continue to get more vaccines in arms, and so do the rest of the counties around us. So again, we're still at the lower part for the state when it comes to our fully vaccinated or one vaccine, but again, progress being made. And even though we've noticed a drastic decline in the demand for vaccine in April, we still outpaced what we did in March. So good news there. We'll wait and see what May brings. We've certainly had a sharp decline in those asking for us to deliver their vaccine. We have a clinic scheduled for tomorrow where we opened up 70 appointments, and as of a half hour ago, we had 12. So really, really low, and we're rethinking the strategies on what we offer here in-house and what we offer outside of the building.
That's what, and in reference to that, I was just thinking on the way down this morning, would we be better served to take our van and go out and to the areas to set up that might be a lot more receptive? Because sometimes people just can't get down here.
You are spot on. So we also scheduled a vaccine clinic in the Becker High School parking lot for tomorrow.
Oh, perfect.
On day one, 50 of the 50 appointments filled up. So we added 20 more, and we're almost full. I think we have one opening for tomorrow afternoon. So yes, I think what we're seeing is really making it convenient and on-site for those folks is going to be the ticket to how we progress with more vaccines. So we're certainly looking forward to that. Throughout May, we do have a variety of second dose clinics yet, and so a few of those are still pretty big. Thursdays is about almost 500. So we'll see those kind of trickle in through May, but what I expect to see through June is probably more strategic small clinics still available here as part of our daily work. So we offer vaccinations here as part of our daily work in public health, and we're going to try to integrate COVID into that as well. But really putting the show on the road, going back out to some of those places where we expect more people to be.
Okay, Commissioner Sneezing?
Madam Chair, Nicole, as time goes on here, we're finding this vaccine is in our pharmacies and in our clinics, and at some point, we may be able to say, hey, there's plenty of opportunities to get this vaccination without us dedicating resources to it, because this is new for us. And I mean, it's fabulous what has been accomplished here, and for us and for public health, it's been great. But at some point, we should be starting to look at, can we begin to taper this off? And when you talk about going out to the community and delivering it to people that can't get here or can't get anywhere, that's fabulous. I think we've got to continue to do that. But I think we should be looking for opportunities to squeeze down the size of it if we can.
How did the Elk River Clinic go for the high school?
We had 400 appointments open, and we served 334. So really, we did quite well. There was a handful of either no-shows or families that may have gotten exposed and needed to cancel, but overall, it was a really good response. Almost 200 16 and 17-year-olds. Which was really kind of the target population, but there was also a variety of community members too. So really pleased with how that went.
Perfect.
But yeah, I agree, Commissioner Smeezing, smaller, we're thinking maybe 20.
Yeah, more
Maybe it is that small that there is just an offering at whatever local establishment. They don't need an appointment, but we have 20 vaccines available that day, and we'll kind of do a little trial and error and see how that goes.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing that we're thinking about, which we have meetings later today on, is there sounds like there will be approval for that 12 to 15 age group approved later this week. And so we're having calls to talk about whose role is it? I think when vaccines rolled out, we had lots of different partners involved between the pharmacies and the federal program, our healthcare systems and local public health, that this time we're going to try to be a little more strategic to say, what components is healthcare trying to accomplish? What components is the pharmacies on board for? And then where do we need to fill in the gaps so we can resume our normal work as well? So hopefully this is a little more coordinated and we have some time to get those kiddos vaccinated that need to be during the summer without a lot of strain on staff, because everybody maybe is taking a role in that. So more to come. We're also exploring what Johnson & Johnson looks like to be available again in the county. We've certainly heard from some groups that they're not interested in that vaccine anymore and would prefer one of the others. We do have a small supply on hand here, so we're just really trying to figure out who best to utilize that with, and if not, then redistribute it so someone else can. And I talked a little bit the last time I was here about zip code data. So we actually did receive some zip code data. This first slide is really showing that social vulnerability index, and there's those 4 categories that make you in those quartiles. So quartile 1 is those most high risk, and those things are their socioeconomic status, the household composition, race, ethnicity, language, and housing and transportation. So we only have one quartile 1 zip code in Sherburne County, and that's that East St. Cloud. I thought initially that the Elk River area was in there, but they actually are not. They're in quartile 3, and the rest of our zip codes are in 4. So really, the majority of our county is very low risk for that, with St. Cloud, East St. Cloud being the one high risk area. And there's just a little bit of information about the rate of vaccinations, about 38%. Or 38% of that population have been vaccinated. And then the number in the parentheses is those that are yet remaining. So if all of those folks in that zip code wanted to be vaccinated, we'd have another 8,500 vaccines to administer in that area. Probably not going to happen. Yeah. The next slide is the actual vaccination rate. So here's, based on the social vulnerability, here's the other component of it. So what the Department of Health has been talking about is that high-risk area in 56304 should be where we target most of our vaccination work because we know they're at highest risk. So they're about 40%. Not too bad. They're not our lowest folks. Our lowest folks are the Becker, Big Lake, and Zimmerman area. And whether that be by choice or access, we're still exploring some of those things. But Elk River area is actually covered quite well and leading the pack there, so we're glad that they have gotten access to vaccine there, but really some of our work will be that East St. Cloud 56304, and then really exploring those middle lowest zip codes to see what else can we provide to get that rate up. Questions on any of this information?
Any questions for Nicole?
No.
I'll be wearing a mask forever.
We shouldn't be making our hunches publicly here.
Exploring is the word I use. Yeah, we're still exploring what might be causing some of those rates.
Right.
As we transition, Dan's got a few comments, but I would also note, just following up on Nicole's comments, we are taking the Maple Conference Facility off of permanent hold for public health effective in June. So you'll start seeing meetings scheduled in the Maple Room.
One more thing to add that I forgot. We also are working on that mailer, and I believe the last final formatting is about to be completed, so that should be going out soon as well. And really just has local public health vaccination opportunities, all of them in the Sherburne County area, and then some frequently asked questions, the kind of fact and myth that we thought would be most pertinent to the community. So perfect. Stay tuned for that.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Nicole? Nope. Thank you. Good update. Appreciate it. Dan.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have two updates for you, two quick updates, and one's actually a non-update. I was hoping to walk through the ARP guidance today, and unfortunately we have not received it yet. We were originally told it would probably be here last week, and it didn't come, and then they said maybe this week, but it looks like it will be next week before we get that guidance. So hopefully in 2 weeks from today we'll be able to walk through that guidance a little further. And I also want to give a quick broadband update. As you know, we've been working with Finley Engineering, and they're putting together a service provider map for us. It's pretty detailed. They gave me a preview of it, and it also has the federal funding areas. So they're going to lead us through a discussion at a future workshop. I'm thinking June would probably work well. We'd have the ARP guidelines, we'd have the map, and we can kind of talk through what our process would be moving forward with those funds.
Perfect. And your preliminary look at it, are you encouraged by, we're going to get some really good information to?
I think it's very valuable information, and then we can marry it to Andrew's maps of where his road projects are and find out where some of the gaps are. As we were sitting here, I also got the broadband survey from Finley Engineering that we wanted to get out. Is there a commissioner or two that want to review that with staff before we send it to the public, or are you okay? I wanted to leave that up to you if there was a commissioner or two that wanted to work with us before we get that out.
I'm happy to give input, but I'm sure you guys will.
Yeah, I think you guys
All
will.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we trust you to, you know us all well enough.
Okay. So we'll work on a communication strategy, and then I'll probably go live early next week then.
Okay.
We'll get this week, get it up and running and have it sent out.
Unless
next week.
anybody has a dying need to.
But what I need from you then is really help advocating residents to fill that out. It is a business survey and a residential survey, so we'll use all our normal channels, but whatever you can do to help push that out, we'll.
Just get us
we
the
appreciate it.
links and everything, and we'll start working.
Yep, and it goes straight to the consultant, so they'll get all the data and they'll give us regular reports of how it's coming in. And if we're not getting enough, then they'll let us know so that we do target our audience a little more direct.
Right, Commissioner Smeezing.
We'd gotten an email, a fellow was having some trouble. Has that been resolved? How's that?
They did have a meeting with the provider. I don't think it provided the answers he was looking for. I know our current lease doesn't have performance standards built into it.
Yeah.
So maybe that's something as a county we could look at in the future if that's something we want to explore. Right now, it's just that they fill it with fiber. But maybe in the future, we have a few more parameters tied to that. And
Yeah, I guess we're learning as we go here.
We're learning as we
probably
go,
should be
exactly.
Yep, and
Considering some of those
And
issues. as
I had talked to Dan and Bruce about making sure that we come back together in a workshop to be able to discuss, because broadband is one of our goals. What do we need to do to make sure the dollars that we're gonna be giving out are gonna get that end result that we wanna see moving us into the future? And so I think that's on your horizon too, after
Yeah,
all
that'll
of
be
our.
part of the workshop discussion is what do we want to see future leases look like?
Yep.
Yeah, and to speak to Commissioner Schmeezing's statement, I think in reviewing that and going back over the history of it, it looked like it's almost predominantly a communication problem up front between the provider and the individual. It didn't, it kind of focused on what was being put in the ground, and I think the wrong impression was given somewhere along the route. So I don't think there was any ill intent or deceiving stuff there, just a miscommunication.
Right. And that's the way it read to me too, but I think if we learn something, if we're able to make sure that we provide a better service, and if we have control over that, and if we're invested in it, I think we should be trying to do that.
Yep.
Yep.
Agree.
Agreed. Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to Commissioner correspondence. Who is ready to start?
I can start. I got a
Commissioner
relatively
Dolan.
short list here. I had CMRP regular meeting and 2 CMRP work plan task force meetings and NACO technology and telecommunications meeting.
All right. Anything else? That's it?
That is it for
All right.
that stretch.
Okay, I had a Fair Board meeting on the 21st, an an IEIC meeting on the 22nd, TAC meeting on the 23rd, and went to the Becker High School for talk about mental health services. I'm not sure what the name of that.
What the acronym for that is?
Yeah, it was public health and schools talking about mental health services. So teaching at the Teaching and Learning Center in Becker High School.
Okay.
And then went to the Elk River Chamber of Commerce to listen to Bruce talk about Sherburne County, which was really good. And then on Saturday, I went up to St. Cloud for their program that the St. Cloud Tribune was sponsoring about having an opportunity to have a memorial for those we've lost with COVID over the last year.
I want to thank you for representing us up there too. I appreciate you picking that up.
So that's all.
Anything else? Oh. Lisa, what do you have? Do we have to kick back? She's not even done writing. Do you want me to go on to Felix?
So.
Okay, you can't go
Go
on to
ahead.
me. I got nothing.
Okay. See how easy that was?
Great River Regional Finance
Just so you didn't put it in the minutes.
meeting, which is exciting to tell everyone that looking ahead to the signatory share, we're looking at almost a 0% for this next year in our preliminary discussions. Met with Margaret Anderson Kelleher, Commissioner of Transportation, to talk 169 and 4, and other transportation details of our county. Had the Empathy and Equity Committee, Region 3 Leadership Planning with Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Services. With AMC Futures, we have a futures meeting coming up a week from Thursday and Friday, so a lot of planning going into that. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but AMC Futures is also bringing in past presenters and offering it to everyone. If you get a chance, some of them are, this last one was Mark Thomas. He's a neuroscientist and studies opioid addiction on the brain. They're just an hour long, a quick snippet of connection with pretty amazing speakers in our state and our country that are doing amazing, great things.
And we can access on the AMC website.
Yeah, and they've opened it to the general membership for all these past presenters. Next Monday, it's going to be Bill Doherty with Braver Angels, and he is the one that's been working a lot on polarization in our country and our state. He's a marriage and family counselor at the U.
It'd be an interesting one.
Oh, it's very interesting. So that's Monday. I won't be a part of that, obviously. So, but join, Carolyn McDonald is my co-facilitator. She'll be teeing that up for us. I met with Kat Sarf. She's the new director of the United Way. Just wanted to talk about the work that they're doing and county work. We had a TRICAP executive meeting. I think I told you guys that Lori Schultz is not resigning, so she's back on board. We have had the Great River Regional Audit. And then I had another Central Minnesota Jobs and Training Joint Powers Board training. Had a Princeton Airport meeting last night. And then Bruce was at the Zimmerman City Council meeting, so I joined him there last night.
Lisa needs more chocolate.
And just, I've told many of you, I will be gone starting tomorrow for a week. Obviously, I'll have my phone, but I will be at my son's getting married in California, so.
So try not to call Lisa. All right, thank you, Lisa, for that update. And thank you for your service on all those boards that you're on. Okay, I had a CMRP meeting. And also met with David Rodell, the Assistant County Engineer, and a few landowners along County Road 43 for a discussion of that project. Had a WebEx with Diane and Bruce in regards to the election process. Also had a WebEx with Brian Gibson from the APO. St. Cloud APO, about the support letter that we approved. Had a water plan advisory committee meeting that I sat in on Lisa's behalf. It was very, very interesting. There's a lot of, it's kind of sad that a lot of that information I don't think gets out to the general public as much, and it isn't because it isn't for lack of trying. It's just, people don't pick it up, and it's kind of frustrating because the things that are changing around us are quite substantial in regards to invasive species and such. So it seems like carp is becoming very, very predominant. So we need to maybe start working on people go out and get those carp and take care of them because they do our lakes no good. Also did another CMRP meeting. We're in the process of winding down and help me with my words and getting ready to set the process.
Yeah, wrapping up the Framework 2030 piece, yep.
Then also attended, sat in on one of the Secretary of State representatives for the election peer review meeting with Diane's staff and Bruce. And that was very informative too. Our results were very good, and we had a very good discussion, and I know there's things that she's planning on doing for the next upcoming election that will be very helpful as well, so it was very good. Okay, that pretty much did it for my schedule. Moving on now, I will be, if there's no further business to come to this body, I'm looking to adjourn our regular meeting. Do I have a motion? Or should I just say we're adjourned?
Yeah, you don't need a motion.
We're adjourned.
You got the gavel.
Take a decision, we're done.
Yeah.